Hello, welcome back to the Tanner Style Kitchen. My name is Oliver Tanner. We've already made a few videos. We made a video on how to make a good flaky style pie crust, how to make an apple pie filling, and in this video we're gonna look at how to make any kind of fruit pie filling. Well, any kind of a hot fruit pie filling. I've seen before in my life, of course, apricot pies, peach pies, but really you can do any kind of pie. Okay, so we did the apple pie because apple pie is something that everybody's kind of familiar with. It's going to be something that you go, oh, apple pie. You know, the old cliche is American is apple pie. We're going to look at doing something a little bit experimental today, because it's through experimentation that we really illustrate that this can be used for anything, right? So let your imagination go wild. I have no clue how it's going to taste. I have no clue how it's going to turn out. We're going to find out today though, and we are going to make a pie with mangoes, pineapple, and coconut milk. So a tropical fruit pie. We're going to figure out if and whether and how that is going to work out. Come along with us and let's make some pie. So let's get busy with our mise en place. For this recipe, now I wanted to buy some fresh mangoes. We went to the store, they didn't have any fresh mangoes. So for this one, we just got frozen mangoes. You can use frozen mangoes. I don't like using it. I would really rather use fresh, but the store has what it has. So what we have is we got our frozen mangoes thawed out, sitting in a bowl. And to that we're going to add our pineapple. We're going to cut that up in just a minute here, and then we're going to add some granulated sugar. We had to cover it up because it started raining here for just a moment, and some lemon juice, and we're going to let that macerate. Right now, let's cut up this pineapple. All right, so cutting up a pineapple, there's a process that I use every time that I cut a pineapple, and so every pineapple comes out looking exactly the same, okay? And this is, well, it's a little bit more applicable when you're talking about catering or food service type thing. You want everything to always look the same. All right, so anyway, I always start, right, go down the side, and I kind of go with the curve of the pineapple. I don't want to cut too far in. It's kind of squared off, but I still got a little bit of that peel on sides. Now I'm just going to I'm going to trim off those corners. So now we got a nice little even octagon. We're just going to cut off the bottom just like that. Ooh, slippery. All right, and then cleanup is done. Now all we're going to do is we're just going to quarter this, trim off the core, and you know, if we were looking to make a fruit platter, something like that, then we would be perfectly set up now. Look at that. We're going to have 4 pieces of pineapple that basically look exactly the same. Why? Because there's a system to how we're doing this. We're not just randomly cutting off little bits until it's peeled. Okay, so you know, if we were doing a fruit platter, we just take it right here, slice it up, and it'll be done. Okay, but we're not making a fruit platter, and so we're actually going to cut this up a little bit differently. I'm going to cut it right down the middle, and we're going to want some bigger chunks because this is a pie, and I like big chunks of fruit in my pie. We're gonna throw this in with our mango. You know, like when we did our apple pie, we didn't really measure out how many apples. We just got a buttload of apples, right? And that's kind of what we're doing here today too. In the event that you have extra filling after you get it all ready and it's time to fill your pie, if you have extra filling, you can eat that. What I would recommend, if you are going to go that route, is I would recommend like taking a spoon and like scooping out a whole bunch and then shoving as much of it into your mouth as possible. Look around and make sure that nobody's watching first, right? Because you don't want to be embarrassed while somebody's watching you shove a bunch of pie filling into your pie hole. Whatever works for you. You're probably gonna have to clean off your face afterwards. In that case, you can just turn on your faucet and stick your face directly under the faucet, let the water run across your face, and just rub your face really good. It should get all of the pie filling off. So let's get on to macerating this. We've got our lemon juice. We're just gonna pour that in there. We've got some sugar. We're just gonna kind of, yeah, got that wind there. We're just gonna pour some sugar in, right? We're not really worrying about how much. We're just gonna kind of give this a little toss with that lemon juice and the sugar in there. And so what this is gonna do, now I don't know that the lemon juice is actually needed in this, to be honest. Lemon juice is used to macerate pretty much any kind of fruit. Lemon juice and sugar. With the pineapple is a very acidic fruit on its own, so we may not actually need the lemon juice, but I used it today just to be safe. But anyway, that acid from the lemon juice and the sugar, it's going to combine to kind of break down some of these fruits a little bit, and we're going to see a lot of water come out of these fruits, a lot of juice, and we're gonna let this sit for maybe a half hour or so, and when we come back to it, then we're gonna notice that there's a lot more juice in there. It's gonna be very wet. We're gonna separate all the fruit from all the juice, and then we're gonna use that juice to actually make the kind of gelled part of the pie filling in there. We're not actually going to cook the fruit very much, because this is fruit that, you know, the mangoes are very delicate. Pineapple doesn't really necessarily need a lot of cooking. Apples are a much firmer fruit. Even peaches sometimes can be really firm. Apricots can be really firm. So they might need a little bit of cooking, but you really aren't going to want to cook those fruits too much before you put them into your pie. Some people might not even want you to cook it at all. They might just say, you know what, just add it with all the fruit juices in there. We're going to do it a little bit differently. We're going to do that cornstarch mixture, make it kind of like a gelled mixture, okay? And we're going to stick it into our pie crust. You know, I explained in the polenta video about cornstarch, and I talked about how pia, kind of a Hawaiian thing, made basically with coconut milk, sugar, and cornstarch. We're making something similar today, because we've got coconut milk that we're going to add to those fruit juices when we cook and make that filling. And so we're going to take some of that coconut milk, we're going to add some other flavors to it though, and then we're going to add sugar, we're going to add cornstarch, and we're going to cook that up. Like I said, I've never done this before, and we're going to find out today how well it works. So our fruit has macerated. Right now we're going to separate out that liquid. So let's have a look at it real quick here. Now you can see it, you know, that liquid, there is a lot more in there than there was before. So let's separate out that. And we are going to cook the fruit. We're just going to cook it for really briefly right at the end. The majority of our filling isn't going to be the mango and pineapple juice, but more the coconut milk. As we cook all that, that's all going to liquefy really quickly. So this is pretty much ready. Let's head over to the fire and start putting this together. Okay, here we are by the fire. We're going to start out with just a little bit of butter. Now we haven't had the pan on for very long, so it's still heating up. When we made our apple pie video, our butter melted really quick and we got a good little flare up. Our pan had actually been sitting on the fire for a while when we did that one. This one, we just barely put the pan on a minute ago. And to that, we are going to add a good amount of brown sugar, right? So brown sugar really goes well with tropical fruits. It's kind of got more of that raw sugar cane kind of a flavor. going with it, and so you know that butter and that brown sugar is going to mix together. That's going to create a good base for the sweetness in this pie filling. To this, we are actually going to add a little bit of rum. Rum is also another one of those things that is really going to add to that tropical kind of flavor. It's going to go really well with all of our other flavors that we have in there. So let's cook this down a little bit. When we've got all of our butter melted, all of the sugar melted in, the rum cooked down a little bit more, be back in a second. So you can see we've kind of added a little bit more wood to the fire. It was a little bit cooler than I wanted. I wanted to increase the heat a little bit more. We're about at the point where I wanted to get to, which is you know, all of the sugar is melted. It's basically like a syrup right now, and you can kind of tell that it's got that good syrupy consistency. You know, as I draw this across, you can see how slowly it goes and fills back in. You're just seeing how thick it is, right? And it's to a consistency where it coats the back of a spatula or a spoon. There's a term for that. It's called nappe, and it's a consistency that you want with a lot of sauces. It's pretty much what we're looking for here. There's no more graininess from the sugar in there. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna add in all of our other fluids. All that coconut milk mixed in. Get all of those solids melted. They're gonna melt pretty darn quick here. And we're just gonna cook this till it's a little bit thicker consistency. We'll come back when that's a little bit better mixed together. Okay, we've been cooking here for about 2 minutes now, and you can see it's all totally uniform. At this point, we're gonna add in just, you know, some of our other little flavoring agents. We're gonna add in a little bit of vanilla, right? For something like this, we're definitely gonna add in some ginger. We want a good amount of that ginger in there. We'll add in a little bit of some cloves, and you know, the spices really work, especially with this tropical thing, because that was actually one of the things, you know, when Columbus crossed the ocean and kind of ran into America, he was looking for India. He was looking for Asia. The whole reason why he wanted to find India, the whole reason why he wanted that was so that they could get things like ginger, so they could get things like nutmeg, so they could get things like cloves. All of these things, which were spices that were grown in the Orient, okay, they cost a lot back then to transport across the ocean. They didn't really have a whole lot of spices that were grown in Europe. So all of these kinds of spices did have a home over in that region, and they do have a home with tropical flavors. So it looks like my spices kind of clumped up a little bit. That's fine. We're just gonna whisk it in here in a second. All right, so you can see I've fixed my little problem, okay? Whisks are really great for things like that, breaking up any kind of clumps. And so now we're gonna go ahead, and we're gonna want the whisk as well when we add the cornstarch, because we're gonna wanna keep stirring this, and those multiple wires from the whisk are gonna help to agitate it better than one big thick paddle from a scraper. All right, so let's go ahead, let's add some of this cornstarch. And I can immediately feel it starting to thicken up. And then, all right, so yeah, that's definitely thickening up there. And we're about to the point where I'm gonna throw in my fruit, which will cool it all down, because the temperature of the fruit is gonna bring down the temperature of the food. And this is something to keep in mind anytime you add food to anything that's cooking. You always bring the temperature down when you add food to something that's hot on the stove. And at this point, let's switch back to our spatula. And this is pretty much the only cooking of the fruit. The rest of the cooking of the fruit, because we have some delicate fruits here, is gonna happen in the pie as it cooks. We're just going to let this cook for a little bit longer. And you know, that fruit is adding in a little bit more water. And that was something that I had kind of calculated for with my cornstarch. I made it a little bit thicker than I wanted because I knew I was going to get a little bit more liquid from the fruit to give it about the consistency that I want. I don't want thick, hard consistency. I want something that's just kind of gooey. All right, so that's pretty good. Let's take that off of the heat. So that should just about do it for our pie filling for this video. You can do just about any kind of fruit pie, pretty much the same. You know, I didn't measure anything out. Eyeball it. Make your pie filling as thick as you want to make it. If you want, you can just use water and cornstarch and cook that. It won't have any flavor. But, you know, if you want to just practice with that process of adding cornstarch, get some water in a pan, boil it, mix up a cornstarch slurry, pour it in, see how it thickens up. It'll thicken up. Go ahead, experiment, and, you know, make your pie however you want to make it. Comment down below what you made and what kind of crazy ideas you have. Anything that you want me to do in the future. You know, we may do some more pie episodes. We definitely have more crust to explore. We can explore savory pies as well. I love hearing other people's stories about you know, their experimentation with food. Thank you for watching. Please, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. We have a lot more coming. And give us a like, and please share the video with anyone you know who might be interested. And thank you very much, and we'll see you in the next one.